Yeah, it's raining. Just getting over that heat wave. So we were working on this piece. This is basically what is the grill, if you will, out of our 55 Pontiac. So there was trim pieces that went on the outside, and the tabs fall in and you bend them, and that's what held it in there. But we're getting rid of a lot of the trim and a lot of that junk. It looked like there was quite a bit on this car, and the owner wanted it gone, so they're all welded shut. I got a layer of filler there. I'm going to have to put a layer of filler there. First we did the fiberglass filler. It looked like there was no real pinholes except for one. It didn't go through though, so we stuffed them all. And we'll give that a quick sand, and then we'll fill it with filler and block it smooth. So let's have a look at our Pontiac. Made a couple other videos, but they were long, and it's been a couple of hot days, so I probably wasn't making sense. But this is what I did this morning. It was finally cool enough. I come out early, we primed the whole car. And what I used on this was the CRE321. So this is a epoxy primer, which lends itself pretty well as a sealer. In the case of this car, we didn't go down to metal. We didn't restore this car. We just took all the junk out, fixed it up, and basically sanded it all in. And the problem with that is you get little halos and funny things. So I'd recommend that any breakthroughs anywhere other than a scuff job, you're going to pretty much have to seal that in somehow. And I went this way. And the reason I went this way, there was a spot on the trunk, and I don't know if it's going to show now. See, if I follow the light, you can kind of see it up there. There's a little bit of a halo there. But everything was so smooth and round. We got the shape the way we want it. So I just left it, and I didn't want to over sand it when I realized I went a bit too far. So what I did when we were priming the car is I went across the middle section here, went and did other stuff, came back, did the bottom, and when I did the bottom, I came up and over. And then I went and did other stuff. And when I did the package tray there, or whatever you call it, behind the window, then we came down the trunk, we went over it again. So it's nice and thick. And the nice thing with this, it's the thing with CRE321 is it's totally blockable. So we'll take some, because of the paint we're using, we're going to do a 400. And we're just going to crisscross it around with a soft block, and it'll be decent. And the other thing was I didn't know exactly if we'd have any highs or lows or anything like that, so we were trying to give us a nice clean base to look at, and if I have any highs, I have the opportunity to kind of sand them out. Now I'm talking minuscule highs, obviously. We're done with any deep body work. What it is what it is. Now one nice thing about the CRE321 epoxy primer, and it's a high build sandable epoxy, so don't mistake it with other epoxies. Other epoxies will not do what this does. Now when you mix that stuff up and shoot it on, it goes on kind of bumpy and fat unless you thin it down. I'd recommend like 5 to 10% if you want to use it as a high build, so just enough to liquefy it that it'll melt in well. Now if you go to the maximum, and the mix on this is 2 to 1, I think it's 2 to 1.5. So 2 to 1 or 2 to 1.25. Now the quarter would be your reducer. The other two are your A and B. That's not bad, but if you kind of go to the largest end of reducer, we'll check it out. I'm going to put my finger here. Hopefully we can focus. Now that is less orange peel than an actual eggshell. It's pretty good. And now the stuff we're going to put on here, we could go right over this. Now there's a couple places where we were going to have probably a little bit more. Because right here there was a couple little divots, so I put a little extra on here. There's probably about 4 coats on there, where the rest of the car has, I guess, a little better than a tack coat and then a good full wet coat, and then some places have 2 good wet coats. Here's probably got about 4 or 5. So we're going to have to sand this area. What I showed you over there, we're not going to sand at all. Now this stuff, you can throw your paint on this, but you got to do it within 4 days. Now some guys say wait an hour, wait 2. I think the TDS on this tells you to wait about 2 hours. I could be mistaken. It depends how thick, of course, you put it, how hot, how cold, and you got to adjust for all that. You can see where all our body fill work and everything, it was pretty good. It was almost great, but this stuff goes on just fat enough that it kind of hid any of the, sins we left behind, so to speak. But I'm pretty happy with it. If you notice that on the hood, we didn't hit that spot. That spot was absolutely perfect, and our paint will more than cover that, so we're not too worried. We were just worried about the body work, and basically the whole car had so much body work. At this point, it makes sense to prime the whole thing. Now, if you see little waves or divots, it's because where we added primer and filled it in, some of it was probably flashing. So, unless you paint it full wet coats like you'd paint a car, you're going to get a bit of that. The one thing's for sure, with every little coat I put on, I made sure to look at it and watch it as I was going, and basically looking for highs and lows. I'm pretty happy with it. That spot on the trunk I knew was there, so I knew how to fix it. And as I was going, I didn't really see anything else that was too bad. I think this thing's going to be pretty nice and satin black. All of our curves are where they're, you can see it, it's where it's supposed to be. Same with this one. It's very smooth and velvety. And then the roof, I went around the windows, make sure it would stick good. And again, the roof, we didn't, it was in great shape. It was only on the outer edge where we really had an issue with it. And it had been sanded down, so it didn't have like 3 paint jobs on it. It had 1. There's other places on the car where that wasn't corrected when it was done the last time, but you never know till you start digging in. So we didn't have to do too much with the roof. We didn't do too much with the top of the hood. And I think the front of the hood was basically because, like the piece I showed you outside, there was all these slices in it for the lettering and the Pontiac junk. We welded all that shut, took the big airplane off, welded the big 3 holes shut. So this is where we're at. Jesus, looks like bloodshot eyeballs. But anyway, what an awful looking sight. Yeah, so this primer works pretty good. Try to come up real close again. Like it's minuscule stuff. Now, depending on time, might be worthwhile taking our 400 and a couple of small blocks or pads. We might just scuff the whole car gently just to make it smooth. But really, that's so minimal, I don't think we have to. Now, the important part of this car, our door fits not too bad. The top of the door here is out of touch, and there's not really much we can do with it for various reasons on this car. But the quarters didn't match the doors, and we had to do a lot of work to them, so I've got them very close. So we're pretty happy with that shape there. Now, with a lot of these cars, if people did the rockers and they didn't do them right, if you look down, you can see how the rocker goes straight. Right below the door, it kind of goes outward and to the front. People tend to push them in real far for some reason. And what happens when they put the quarter on, you can see that little tip out at the bottom of the door. So, and a lot of these cars have that tip out. So it's not that our doors were bad. The doors are actually really good on this car. It's just, we're going to be living with that. And once it's satin black, you're not going to see that. That shadow will disappear completely. The main thing with this car that makes this car look ugly, if you do it wrong, the way this comes up over the wheel, and then you have that perfect straight line. We got that really decent. I'm pretty happy with that. I wasn't sure how it would turn out. Someone had remade this and they had all little chunks to put it together, so I had to fix that, take some of it out, make my own, and then kind of blend it all back in. And turned out pretty good. It's pretty straight. Now we did go a little bit sharper than what you would normally go, and then we just sanded the edge off to round it off because I kind of like that nice dramatic line. And the thing is, like, there's going to be places where this car is not going to be perfect, but if that line is nice and straight and the body roll across the top and stuff is nice and straight, you know, around the wheel, so sometimes you can make that stuff go a little further, make it a little sharper, a little prettier, and then the places where there is sins, you won't necessarily see them as much. Your eye is drawn to all the cool shapes. It's got a teeny little ding right here somewhere. You can kind of see it in the light. We're not going to fix that. We're not going to touch it. We're leaving it right alone. And then that piece here, all we did was kind of smooth it out. We didn't necessarily fix much there because, well, we couldn't. This car had been hitting the back end, and it is what it is, so we basically did what we were asked. Now keep in mind the bumper comes up and hides a bunch of that anyway, so we're not too worried, but it looks all right. It looks good compared to the nasty busted out stuff that was going on. And here actually we have better light, so you can see we have a nice curve on that body line that sticks out, where before it kind of went down the body and then it went in and then it went back out. We've eliminated, I think, most of that. Let me back up as far as I can, but you can see like it's a nice body line. This door, kind of like the other side, tips out a little bit at the bottom. This one actually we might be able to adjust a little bit more, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. See how I feel about that when the time comes. Then the roof all around this edge. Made sure to get all that. Wanted to get up underneath the lip and underneath here. These are the places where things tend to peel when you're doing a tape up job and you're not blowing things right apart. So again, using the CRE321 kind of saves our ass, right? It's going to stick to just about anything. It's a good looking car. Thanks for watching. Cheers.